This hand takes place in a 109 Second Chance WCOOP, where I take a very unconventional line, and a lot of people didn't like the way I played it, but I'll go over what they think, what I think, and how this hand is played. I think it'll make for a good quickie video. First of all, up to this point, I've been a 9-7 with a 3-bet of 0 over 100 hands. Obviously, that's ridiculously tight, and the reason I did that was a combination of being insanely card dead and also people being insanely aggressive around me and me not having a lot of good spots to play aggressively. Mormon, on the other hand, has been complete psycho, raising 50% of hands folded to him in all positions. So when it folds to him in the hijack, I'm assuming he was going to raise more than half the deck in this spot based on how he's been playing. I'm in the big blind. I don't know why it's not showing up, but the big blind's 150. When it folds to me, you would think this is going to be a spot where you would clearly 3-bet, but I decided to flat for a couple reasons, which a lot of people didn't like. First of all, I wanted him to continue with hands that are just complete nothings, that undercards to my hand, hands like 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 8. Obviously, I can go on and on. If he's raising half the deck, he's raising a lot of hands that I have completely dominated. I want him to continue with those hands. Second reason is I thought that because I've been a 9-7 with a 3-bet of 0 over 100 hands, he would assume that I wouldn't be 3-betting light in this spot, and that he probably thinks my 3-betting range here is going to be made up of all good hands. So I think that his range to 4-bet get it in here versus me is probably going to be like 9s plus ace, queen, ace, king. So if he 4-bets me all in here, I'm going to have to fold since 10s do so poorly versus that range that I think he would be 4-betting with. So I don't want to, I'm essentially turning 10s into a bluff, and obviously I don't want to do that in this spot. But the thing that people argued with against me there, a lot of people that know him more than me, is that he will get it in much later than I thought he would in this spot, that he'd be capable of 4-bet getting it in with like 7s and stuff like that in this spot. So I feel like that's where you need to decide whether or not to 3-bet in this spot, is whether or not you think you do well versus 4-bet getting it in range. I didn't think he did. People think he does. So I think that's where maybe the one mistake that I think I made on this hand was not 3-betting, because I misunderstood his range for 4-bet getting it in versus me. Also, I have played with him in the past, but it's been over a year at least, so I'm not sure if he has hands on me or not, but I assume that he's going to view me either way as tight with how insanely tight I've been playing in this tournament up to this point. So I decided to flop ace, queen, 4, 2 diamonds. Obviously not a good flop for my hand. I feel like he's obviously going to connect with this board a lot, but the thing that I think is why it's not as bad as people think is that he's still going to have more than 50% of the deck in this spot, and he's going to bet this flop 100% of the time he has nothing. So obviously his range is still more than half the deck, which I'm going to be ahead of most of the time. Also, the small chance that he checks behind hands with some sort of value that aren't that strong, because if he has like something like queen jack or queen king here, if he's betting, I'm folding all hands that he beats and not folding any hands that beat him. So his basically turning king queen into a bluff here if he bets. That's saying versus a general 9-7-0 type player would do that. Versus me, obviously betting here with a queen, and there is some hands that I'll call with since I call with 10s in this spot. But generally I'm saying he might check behind a queen king or queen jack based on how I've been playing and his perception of me. So that makes me lean that there's even more chance he's bluffing in this spot than not. So obviously I decided to call, but if on the turn I'm thinking I'm probably just going to call the flop, and if on the turn I'm going to fold to any aggression, I think I can't really profitably check call 3 street, which is part of the problem of playing 10s out of position versus an aggressive player. Another reason why 3-betting pre is good. But in this spot, I feel like he's probably going to give me credit for a hand a good portion of the time and won't bluff me as much as he might bluff someone else in this spot. So I think I can just check call the flop, fold the turn to aggression, and depending on his sizing and how I feel at the time, but I'm just check calling the flop and check folding the turn generally in this spot. So when he checks behind the turn, I think his hand can be one of two things in this spot. Either total air that he's giving up on, or a hand that has some sort of showdown value that he doesn't think can get called again by a worse hand, and he's trying to keep the pot small.